This week on This Broker Life, we are headed to Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, where we attended the Ottawa Mortgage Symposium and presented on how to do a podcast, how to do content, and what to do to distribute all of that. And I'm going to show you that presentation here today on This Broker Life. Let's go.
Better listen up, we about to make it happen. So hot, we burn it up. We just can't get enough. Get down now, have some fun, 'cause we about to make it, we about to make it happen.
Ottawa is one of my absolute favorite cities. I'm excited to do this, and I think that personally, we can provide a lot of value for people. I think people need to know how to do this. This is going to impact their business incredibly, and honestly, if we can give them 6 or 7 things to take away, I think they honestly come away with some success from using podcasts.
So without further ado, Chris Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Let's test our mic here. Okay, we're good. All right, well, that was interesting to see the panel, because the panel would have been a perfect podcast today. All the topics that were covered, everybody that was talking had a different sort of way of addressing the same kind of topic. And that's a huge concern in podcasting. It's a huge concern in content. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to talk all about podcasting, but we're also going to talk about your presence. We're going to talk about you being part of media, being kind of different out there, being different from the broker down the street, different from the agent down the street. And one of the best ways to do that is put yourself in front of people, right? And so I bet you 2 years ago, you were probably thinking, I'm definitely not expecting to go to a mortgage conference and hear about podcasting. And I probably am not going to hear about content and video. But the truth is, over the last 2 years, it's all we've done. How many of you have Zoom fatigue right now? Right? We've been on video, you've been on video, whether you like the sound of your voice or not, you're ready. This is not new for you. All you're going to do now is distribute it to the world. Everything you know, everything you feel, everything you are as a person, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So what I want you to do with today's presentation is come away with some ideas of what you can do, not just for podcasting, but for content, for things you want to distribute to your clients, to your market, to your people you're involved with in the community. It all helps your business. So we're going to talk a little bit about why podcasting, but we'll also talk about vodcasting, and why they're one and the same. We want to come up with why we need to do this on video as much as we need to do this on audio. How many of you listen to podcasts right now? How many of you watch them if they come out on YouTube or somewhere else? Right? So that's starting to increase now, is in video and in audio, right? So if you're going to start a podcast, you have to be ready to do both. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to use what the good Lord gave you. That's just you. We'll talk about who you are, what you do, but why you do it as well. Ditching the personal brand cliche. How many of you are sick of hearing personal branding as a topic? Right? See, there's Chris over there. Right? We hear it all the time. What's your personal brand? What's your personal brand? It's really just about you. We'll talk a little bit about that. Kim said this is podcasting for dummies. The best thing I can say to you is nobody in here is a dummy. Everybody here can do this. There's not a single person in this room that can't put content together and put it out in front of your clients. And we'll see why that's so important. Because we're going to talk about the ROI of this. What difference it's going to make in your business. How to distribute it. We'll talk about how it's less time consuming than you think. There's lots of easy ways to do this really, really quickly. And we'll learn the power that the media and content has. Your company brand helps you, but really the person in the video is you, right? You're talking all about your passions, what it is if you're involved in the community. Maybe you coach your kids' sports. Maybe you're not talking about mortgages at all, or maybe you are talking about mortgages, or maybe you're talking about both. How they all are of value to your client base. And your company brand and your personal brand, quote unquote, do matter as far as your podcast and what you're talking about. And the reason is this. We did a broker survey on a U.S. city that we were talking to, a brokerage down there. And they had 6 brokers on the same street. Now, it's a very long street, but they still had 6 brokers on the same street. And with these 6 brokers, the government changed the rates. They did the same thing, a lot of them, right? They sent out that newsletter. They sent out whatever the announcement was. It was a 25 bip rate change. All 6 brokers shared this news in different ways. And brokers 1 and 5 did double the business of brokers 2 and 6 and triple the business of broker 4. Why do you think that was? Same news. Why are 2 of them on the same street doing better than the other 3? The answer is in video content. They didn't buy down rates. They didn't do anything different but being present with their clients, being exactly where they were, whether that was a podcast or creating content. Maybe they were on social media. Maybe they did both. But they were out there and they were delivering not just the news of the 25 bip rate change, but what it means to their client base. If your client base is millennials, explain that to them. What does it mean, right? How many of us see each other sharing these rate changes across social media all the time? Everybody does, right? But some people do it differently, and when they deliver it via content, when they deliver it via video, and they deliver it with your personality and attitude and your thoughts and opinions on it, you're going to get a lot more business, you're going to get a lot more attention. People know the difference between you and the brand. When I say Fiskard in here, what does everybody think of? Riza. Prime example. Riza puts out video content. Sorry, Riza, I didn't mean to call you out, but you do. So when you think Fiskard, the first thing you thought in your head was Riza or Hallie. You didn't think Fiskard, you thought Riza. That's because he puts out content, he talks about what they do, but he gives you opinions, he talks about deal scenarios, he makes a difference in the content he shares, and that allows you to use Fiskard more, right? That's why you're using Fiskard, because of Riza, right? Not necessarily the product. So, news articles be damned, face the crowd. I love this. Start a podcast. It's so easy. It's really, really easy. If you have one of these, which all of you do, probably on your table right now or in your pocket, you can do it. It's super cheap. You can start a podcast right from your own phone. If you download the Anchor.fm app, you can start recording right now if you wanted to. Right? So you have the equipment. Now you can have other equipment. Of course you can have other equipment. And we'll talk a little bit about what can be available. It's still pretty cheap. But always include a video version. This is what's changing about the podcast world. It's not just audio. You need to be on video too. And if you hate seeing yourself on video, well, too bad, because the last 2 years you did it every single day when you were on Zoom. Right? So you're already ready for it. I'm going to go back to that one for a second. Does anybody know what micro content is? What's micro content?
Small little bits of information.
That's right. Advertising your podcast is super easy. You just take little clips out of it and share it in micro content. But you need to do it. Because if you want to get an audience, you want your client base, you want your social media following to follow you and listen to your podcast, and you want to become an influencer, that's how you're going to do it, sharing micro content as well. And that will give you that influencer effect, drag people in to watch your podcast, to listen to your podcast, and it will earn you business. You'll be like brokers 1 and 6 in that previous example. But most importantly, understand that you drive the bus. Right? You drive the bus. And we know that there's tons of clients doing research about how to get a mortgage. We know that a lot of them apply online. We know there's a lot of clients that think they know what they're talking about. But I don't care about any of that, because you have a license. You have a license. Drive the bus. You know more. Be confident in what you know, even if you were just passing your license yesterday. You still know more than most clients out there. You should still be doing this. Micro content and a podcast. So it's not about the equipment. We talked about that. But you can we've got our 4K camera going right now back there. You don't need that. You can get a nice one for your laptop. Your laptop probably has one built in. You can use that. You can use Zoom and use recorded video from Zoom as your podcast. That's what we do for This Broker Life. There's other software that you can do lives on Facebook and Instagram and more, LinkedIn. Get a ring light. Guess how much that all costs? Throw it out there. What do you think? 30 bucks for what? Mm-hmm. What about the microphone? Yeah, probably 100 bucks, right? It doesn't have to cost you a ton of money to do this. And like I said, you can just do it from your phone if you wanted to. It's important, though, that you're conversational. It's important that if you have guests, you're having a conversation. It's not too prepared. It doesn't sound canned. But that can be easy. How many of you have great conversations with each other in here all the time? Imagine just a camera on you for doing that. In fact, just to let you know, each one of your tables has a camera built in, and you're all on a podcast right now. I'm kidding. Would never do that to you. But you could easily do it. Those conversations matter, and they're educational. You learn from each other. Imagine capturing that as content and sharing it with others. And it's a great way to market-proof your business. We heard Kim talk about this when we started. You know, things are changing. Rates are going up, getting a little nervous. We have a great video on BHB TV by Ray Reyes, who talks about how he market-proofs his business. And one of the ways he does it is continuously being in his clients' faces. But he has 5,000 clients. So the problem there is that he can't really do that without doing things like content. So now more than ever, you need to be doing this. Because now with 6 brokers on the same street, you're going to need to be the one that earns the smaller share of business that's out there. The best way to do it is to be out there and face them, right? Alec Hansen talks about branding. I'm not going to pull up his video, but I encourage you to watch his videos. This is not about personal brand. This is about you. This is about yourself. This is about who you are. If you have a passion that's outside of the mortgage industry, you want to talk about sports. Kim mentioned I did a podcast with my son called 211's Baseball Talk. Do it. A lot of times that audience may find out what you do. We heard Gary Vee say that. Right? People found out what he does, even though he wasn't podcasting about his business. And he got business from it. It's really your personal reputation that's out here doing this content and doing podcasts. And you aren't a dummy at this. You're pretty good at this. You're an expert in your business. You're an expert in the community associations you're a part of. You are an expert. You're an influencer. You just have to show everybody. So in this activity, I know not everybody has a notepad here, but you can use your phone or you can just think about this for a second. Because a lot of people are probably sitting there going, okay, but this is still too hard. It's still going to take up too much of it. I'm busy. I got too many deals on. I can't do this, right? Well, I want you to think about this. List your 3 biggest passions about the mortgage industry, really quickly. Or your passions outside. That's fine. Absolutely. Your 3 biggest passions in general. I see lots of people writing and typing. Friday. I like that. Now when you're done that, list the 3 biggest objections that you face right now from clients. Whatever they are. Good. I see lots of people writing things in their phones. I love it. And lastly, your 3 biggest pet peeves about the industry. We heard from the panel that one of your pet peeves might be whether underwriters read your notes or not. Right? You've got 3 pet peeves or misunderstandings, or even misunderstandings you hear from clients. Raise your hand when you've got all 9 of those things done. Who's got all 9? Anybody yet? I see lots of writing still, so I'll wait. All right, looks like everybody's pretty much done. So, let's talk about this, because you just now curated the first season of your content. You've now just written out your first 9 episodes. That simple. Each one of the things you wrote down is a topic for your podcast. It's a topic for your micro content. You just did it right now in 3 minutes. And don't worry if it's the same topic as someone else at your table. Do you know why? Somebody shout it out. Because you're all different. I'd listen to all of you talk about the same topic because you're all going to have different things to say about it. So when you sit there and go, ah, somebody already did this. No, not like you, right? You can do it differently. Get some guests, involve some partners, and get your realtor partners involved. Maybe it's your assistant coaches and your kid's sport team, whatever it is, get some guests on there. Have your target audience in mind, though. Everything you do with this content, whether it's podcast or micro content, should have a target audience in mind. Who are you trying to impact? You need to know that. That will change the success rate of your podcast, and in reality, just be authentic to you. Just talk, but be yourself, whether you hate the sound of your voice or not. Be yourself. People will like that. You'll be shocked at how quickly you gain an audience. And this is why. This is exactly why you want to do this. This comes from Anchor.fm, these stats. They're a big podcasting platform out of the United States. Did you know that business professionals who have a podcast have a whopping 89% more awareness in their local market? So we think back to that broker example where we got proof of that at BHB TV, and we talked to those people on the same street. That was proof right there that they had 89% more market awareness than the other brokers on the same damn street. And they did it through content and podcasting. 57% higher physical brand recognition. That means you're helping DLC, you're helping Verico, you're helping Axiom. Whoever you're with, 57% higher physical brand recognition come from you just doing a podcast as well. 24% higher brand favorability just by you being the person you are. Your brand now is 24% more favorable with your client base. That's pretty cool. I think your brokerage house would be pretty proud of that for you and support your podcast, right? 34% higher purchase intent upon becoming a lead. This is interesting because we know referrals are our best leads, right? They're half sold when they come in the door. But guess what? If you're producing content and you're doing a podcast, or any other content for that matter, you're 34% more likely to have a client walk in the door that saw that already half sold as well. It's a great way to get a half sold lead. 34% higher instance of that. And how many of you have the problem that you have a client, comes in the door, first time client, you do their mortgage, and 2 years later they pay it out with another broker? Happens a lot, doesn't it? Well, it'll happen 46% less if you have a podcast and do content. If you're engaging them post-sale. And you don't even have to do it directly. This is the beauty of content. You don't even have to send it to them personally. You can in the newsletter if you want. But with this, if they're just following you, if they know you do a podcast, if they know you're sharing content on your social media, then they're going to follow you, they're going to stay with you. 46% higher instance of that. Okay? Distribution is not difficult either. Who said they had a podcast already? Who are you distributed on? Which networks?
Somebody else does it for me, so I have no
Okay,
idea.
we're going to talk about that. But you're probably on Spotify, right? You're on probably Apple Podcasts,
I believe so.
right? You can get somebody to help you with this. We do this as well as an organization, but there's lots of organizations out there that do it too, to distribute you everywhere. You can get on iHeartRadio, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, BHP TV, YouTube again, over and over and over again. YouTube as well, right? iHeartRadio is pretty cool because it's got all the radio stations as well. Your podcast can be mixed in right in there. Get a distribution partner. They're not expensive. You can easily get it distributed. You can start this on a podcast platform like Pocket Casts really easily, get your hang of it before you distribute it, but don't wait too long. You want it everywhere. You want people to see you. And socials. How many of you are on TikTok? We've got one TikTok. 2 TikToks? We have a broker from the United States on TikTok that did a video for us named Scott Betley. If you go and watch him on BHB TV, he 10x'd his business through TikTok alone. And you may follow him already, but he 10x'd his business through TikTok alone. Had to get licensed in 30 different states because people saw his videos. Scott's amazing, he's awesome. Watch that video because it'll give you an idea of how easy it really is. And when you see his videos, you're going to know that this is really simple because there's nothing major about those videos. He just has fun doing it, his audience loves him, and they call him for mortgages. So even if you think TikTok isn't a place to be, it is. But make sure you distribute your content across all socials. LinkedIn's getting a lot more popular again. Do it there. IG, do it there. Facebook, do it there. Get it everywhere. It's easy and it's free. And it's you. You can save time with a production service. We just talked about that. So if you're worried about time, which is one thing we really want to take into account here, right? You're super busy. I understand that. That's why you have a service, I'm sure, right? It's exactly why. You can sit there, you can talk on your podcast, and then be done with it. So you can do that. Ease of the equipment, again, like we said, phones. You can even just use your phone and do this to start. And it only takes a few minutes a day or week to promote. Just put out a social. Encourage people to share it. Have a call to action. If you like this, share it. Right? And people will. And your content will go wide. Even if you have only 5 followers on Twitter, guess what? If you ask somebody to share it who has 50,000 followers, boom, done. As soon as they retweet that, you're now hitting 50,000 people. Right? Very simple. To talk about it took me 2 seconds. I could have done it in the same amount of time. So you do have time. I want to thank you guys for having us here because this is one of the most passionate things we talk about. Podcasting. We talk about content. I'm going to open it up to questions now. And you can follow us everywhere on the socials. I'll let you read all of those. But does anybody have any questions?
Why don't you tell them what they need? If they're doing this from their home offices, what equipment would they need if they don't have a phone? Like, I can't do it from my phone. It's BlackBerry.
So the BlackBerry users of the world. The BlackBerry users of the world. Oh, boy. So all you need to do is go to Amazon or Best Buy, and you can actually get podcast. So they'll come with a ring light, they'll come with a microphone, they'll come with a camera, right? And usually you're talking like $150, unless you get really the high-end stuff, right? Make sure that the lighting does matter. It does matter a little bit. Yes, the content matters, but if you're going to do the video side of things, make sure you're lit. There's so many, not lit like that. Not lit like that. Wrong. Wrong. It's one way to do it. Might be some fun episodes that way, but I saw and consulted with a guy that did his podcast in his basement, and you could still tell it was his basement even though he was so poorly lit. It was all black around him because it was dark in the rest of the basement, and he had a little bit of a light on his face, but because of that light, you could see the spiders dropping down around him. So I said, "Where are you?" I said, "Where are you when you're doing this?" He said, "Well, I'm in my basement." I said, "That is not where you need to be. And also, is that why you're so dimly lit?" "Oh yeah, I want people to see the mess behind me." "Okay, then choose a different room because you can see the spiders." Right? They're glistening in the light that you do have, which isn't much. So you got to take a little bit of care. Have some passion for this. You know, it doesn't have to be. As Kim says, you can do this in your home. Like you can do this in your kitchen. You can do this in a nicer room than your basement. There's another one that I can think of that they do it in the garage. They have a nice setup in their garage. TV, they watch all their sports in there. They do the podcast from there. They set up 2 chairs, put a phone camera on them. So don't have anything special, and hit record. They edit it a little bit and put it on the podcast networks. That's it. Because you do want to be edgy. You do want to be a little bit edgy. It helps differentiate you from the rest of the crowd, from everybody else doing a podcast on the same topic. But just keep the swearing down, I would say, right? Don't be overly planned. It looks like you're overly planned when you do that, right? It looks like you're reading from a script or you're reading from, try not to do that. Have a conversation. You know the answer, right? Doesn't have to, you can say ums and ahs. That's okay, that's natural. It's part of conversation. So don't overly plan it because it makes it boring. Yep?
What about content and podcasts in French? Bilingual podcasts such as Ottawa.
Yeah, there's two actually that I can think of. I forget the name exactly, but there's two mortgage ones that are out there. I'll actually share that with Kim. But there's, I would do it. I mean, I don't see why not. You've got two different big audiences. For sure, you would want to do that. You can even mix it in. A lot of people are bilingual in this area, right? So you could just mix English and French like they do with political interviews and things like that. It would be unique, right? You'd probably earn a really big audience from people who feel respected that both languages are being covered.
How much footage do you typically edit out?
That's a good question. It all depends on your camera ability, I guess. Your nerves, for sure. I would say that we edit very little footage out of This Broker Life. Dave's back there, he can probably acknowledge that too. I don't think we do. We don't take out much because it's natural. It's a conversation, right?
What do you use for editing?
So we use Premiere. You don't need Premiere. You can use, there's apps that you can use, right? Or you can have us do it for you and then we can use Premiere on your podcast and get it out for you. But there's really easy things you can do to just clip it if you want to start small and see what's going on, if this is going to work for you. Absolutely use apps. Any other questions?
Is there any ideal time frames for it?
Time frames. Okay, this is actually a really good question. So how many of you think an hour-long podcast is a good idea? No, a lot of laughing, right? At BHB TV, we ask all of our content that's distributed by your lender partners or things we put together are no more than 20 to 30 minutes. I would say that is probably maximum for any podcast as well. Now, if you have a huge guest, you could somehow land Gary Vee, you want to talk to him for an hour, well, guess what? People are going to watch that anyway, so do it, right? It doesn't mean you can't do an hour long, but if it regularly, probably 20 to 30 minutes at the most. I've seen podcasts as short as 5 minutes, and they still are very popular.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, in terms of percentage-wise, when releasing content, how much of it would you recommend it be mortgage, and how much of it would you recommend it to be showcasing your lifestyle and just your realness, just to bring out more of the personality? How much of it would you want to have a balance of your business content and you?
Probably 70-30. 70 you, 30 business content. So the question, if you didn't hear it over there, was how much of the content should be you personally, maybe some of your passions, things you're involved in the community, that type of thing. Maybe you're doing an interview about something your community organization is doing. And then 30% of it is still that you're a mortgage professional, right? You want to try to do that because obviously we've all seen it again. I brought up this example earlier where it's rate changes, everybody shares the Globe and Mail article. Stop doing that. Talk about it. Talk about it. The rate changed a little bit. Here's what it means to you, right? But again, that comes from your personality rather than just the article itself. That was a good question. Any other questions? Riza? How often should people be putting out content? What do you think the answer to this is?
I think it varies per platform,
Varies per platform. Why?
just because their algorithms are very different.
Yes. Yeah, it varies per platform, but what would you say the minimum is? How much do you put out usually?
3 to 4.
You do 3 to 4 a week? Is that micro content or podcast?
Micro content.
Okay, so micro content, 3 to 4 a week, sounds good. It's actually really good. Podcasts, bi-weekly is fine. You don't have to do it weekly. I know you are busy, but you shouldn't necessarily do it once a month either, or even less than that, because then people start to forget about you, right? How often do you put out your podcast? Once a week. We do once a week as well. No more than once a week. You wouldn't want to do it too much, right? The micro content for sure, though, around it, so clips and things. Yep.
Do you suggest that we have kind of a staged area? Does it really matter, or for how clear it is? Or I noticed like when they do during COVID, you saw a lot of people, especially sports stations, they had like different setups in the back.
Yep.
Does that matter, or do you suggest?
It does matter. I mean, we talked about the basement and the spiders. Obviously, that's one of them. It matters a little bit. If you're using a Zoom background, you should have a green screen. Does everybody know why? What happens in Zoom backgrounds that drives you absolutely bonkers? Yeah, the person disappears and comes back and disappears and the thing takes over. And if you just had a green screen, which by the way is $20 on Amazon, put it up behind you, you can staple it to the wall, you can tape it to the wall, whatever it is, it's very easy to do. Tell Zoom you have one. As soon as you do that and you put the Zoom backgrounds up, perfect. Almost never does that. Right? So you can have fake office backgrounds, you can have some nice tropics backgrounds, you can do anything you want, but try to have a green screen, because otherwise you're going to disappear behind a tree all of a sudden.
So hot we